How you doing this evening, Aussie?
I'm good. How are you, Benny?
I am well. I am well. I am glad, so very excited and glad that you joined me tonight with your endless knowledge. Um, Tonight, we are going to be talking about secondary victimization and neurodiversity, which I'll tell you, you can already tell which part of the thing is mine and which part of the thing is hers. I'm secondary victimization. She knows more about both than me, but neurodiversity is really going to play into tonight's live, guys. If you're not familiar with what neurodiversity is, you're going to get educated tonight. Isn't that right, Aussie?
That's right. And I'd just like to start by saying it's good to hear you're feeling better. You sound a lot happier and better than you did yesterday.
Yes, I have had. Oh, I can't even tell you how many oral IVs I've had, and that has really been the difference. Now, I have been. I still am having an issue with my body regulating its own temperature. I'm up and I'm down and I'm sideways, and so that part has it's been difficult. But I do definitely feel a whole lot better than I did even just yesterday. So
Well, that's good news. Good news.
yes,
You can hear it in your voice.
yes, I'm definitely. I mean, I got up today and I washed and scrubbed my garage floor and cleaned the kitchen and did a few other things that the wife has been on my neck before I was feeling bad about. So
Well,
that's
you've done a heck of a lot more than I have today.
I want to just take a moment and welcome everybody in the chat. G Dog, Denise,
Hi,
Wildflower,
chatters.
Victor. Thank you. Let me go over here where I can more appropriately see who's in the chat, guys. We're just going to allow a few people to filter in for a moment.
Hey,
And
G-Dog.
let's see here. So we got Barbie, Jenny, Advocate. Hey, hello. Thank you for joining. Wicked Crazy, Wildflower, Casey K, G Dog, Leandra, Honest Rage. Thank you, ladies, for joining us tonight. Barbie, I see you're a new face. Thank you for joining us this evening. Lisa, yes, I do believe you did tell me so. So I guess, guys, this is a perfect size audience. I don't even know how some of those other people can even go on when they've got hundreds and hundreds of people. Like I feel blessed that we don't have that sort of issue. We still get the awareness on the back end, but we don't have to deal with dealing with a bunch of knuckleheads in the chats. That's because Benny burns up all his push notifications. So they don't actually know.
It's good to be back.
Yeah, they don't actually know. Hey, Pansy, they don't actually know that we're live right now. Even the subscribers and the believers, they don't know. So yes, I hopefully everyone tonight they'll get the notification at midnight when I'll go ahead and boost it. So to the title.
I got a notification just on my phone now.
Did you? Awesome. Then I guess I haven't.
I did.
That's certainly going to be my last push notification for the night. So Barbie, she says she's seen Aussie on Voices Behind the Wall. She loves listening to you. She is great. Thank you for that, Barbie. She is she's awesome.
Thank you, Barbie.
Q.
Just to fill you in, Benny, I ended up having a chat with Sher, but I ended up doing it on her live stream so that everyone could hear.
Oh, okay. Nice. That's a beautiful thing.
Talked about checking your biases at the door and secondary victimization, sort of briefly.
Yeah. Well, then that's a it seems like you're welcome, Q. Then that seems like an ordained thing, a God thing. So let's just go ahead and push right into it, guys. What we are going to be talking about tonight in this segment is secondary victimization.
Before you do, Benny.
Okay.
Can I share my screen first and just show the chatters a very funny short skit just to lighten the mood and get everybody into a funny sort of mood, but it sort of sums up what we've been encountering.
Please do. Please do.
Let me
I
get my
actually
share
have a
screen.
funny one too. I see, and this is the thing. I'm allowing Aussie to shoot straight from the hip. I have not seen this video, so she knows that she can do these things. I actually also have kind of a funny video that I want to play a few minutes of and do a little bit of a reaction to at the end of this video after we've gotten through the meat and the potatoes. So here is Aussie's screen share.
This is just 2 minutes, not even 2 minutes. I think it's like 1 minute. So it's just something to have a laugh at, because we'll all understand this. So here we go.
Something to do with a herd, maybe. Next. Bravo, bravo, bravo. Guys, now if you want a literal definition, hey Lizzie, for what you just saw, that is herd mentality. Am I right?
Yeah, sort of. It's just don't argue with idiots. It's called don't argue with idiots.
Yeah. Hey, you want to step out on the crocodile? Be my guest. So is it okay to move forward now? We are going to push forward with the secondary victimization. Now, guys, let me share my screen again. Aussie as well. We'll be sharing different things back and forth, but Aussie also she has things to add to this scenario as well on her own end, and so you can expect to go back and forth, guys. But so let me let's do it this way.
So go to the page that I sent you.
That was, where was that? Email?
No, I sent it to you in private chat. You've got a tab sitting there. You've got a tab sitting there. Social media companies is the name of the tab.
Gotcha. Sorry about that. Social media companies reporting. Go ahead.
Scroll down to the victimization heading. Because the first bit's just about the responsibility that social media has to watching this content when it's reported, and they're not doing it. So that's the first bit. So I just wanted to scroll down, then that gives you sort of a basis to kick off with, and then I'll chime in with some other stuff as we go.
All right. You want me to read that out?
However you want to do it.
Okay,
it gives us. Okay.
Gotcha. Secondary victimization in the field of criminal justice. There is a concept called secondary victimization, defined as negative social or societal reaction in consequence of the primary victimization, and is experienced as further violation of legitimate rights or entitlements by the victim. Said another way, following the loss of control that often accompanies criminal victimization, victims seek recognition and support, and professional but distant reactions from authorities can leave victims feeling rejected and not supported. That is,
so you start from that point.
Correct. Anyone that needs a little bit further defining of that, we have it as secondary victimization refers to behaviors and attitudes of social service providers that are victim blaming and insensitive, and which traumatize victims of violence who are being served by these agencies. Now, secondary victimization does not. Go ahead.
Sorry, it also includes unwanted and invasive media and social media attention.
But not limited to just media. It's also, it encompasses, the people that frequent these sorts of victim blaming sites, I guess, right?
Right. It encompasses media, it encompasses social media. It's a social stigma that we're creating when we put out our true crime content. We're creating a stigma. The family's always first, and everyone just never goes past looking at the family. They all just stuck on the family. They never go past looking at the family. And this is part of the issue because it's victimizing the family. The family are already victims because they've lost their child. They're
Correct.
already a victim to start with because they've lost their child. When we do true crime content that focuses on them and their personalities and all their prior history and all the stuff that everyone does, that's secondary victimization. They're already a victim when we're victimizing them from a secondary perspective. Again, whether it's the media publishing their criminal history or it's us talking about them in derogatory terms, it's all encompassed by secondary victimization, and it's a really huge problem. But the issue that we've got on social media is, and I guess the traditional media, is that it's only secondary victimization is only a recognized topic within law enforcement and how they treat the victims.
Correct.
And so
Correct.
what we want to do with your petition is move this secondary victimization forward so that it's a social thing, and it's not just law enforcement who are also victimizing victims. It's who are also looking at the morality, I guess you could say, the rightness and wrongness of doing this. It's
Right.
also us looking at it. And I'll just also point out that when there was some research done a little back, where they were researching the treatment of the families of murder victims. 50 of the 80 families interviewed for the research all had complaints about the media, and only one reported a positive experience with the media, and that's traditional media. So imagine what the stats are if we were going to be looking at, asking those same 80 victims how they felt with social media. So
facts. We already know what sort of complaint we could actually speak for them in return, in regards to that.
Don and Candace have spoken for themselves on that front.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Also, guys, what I want to do is I also want to take a moment this evening when we get a break, and we are going to amend the petition with the framework, the actual legal expectations that we have for this petition. So that's going to be an exciting thing. We've worked out, I think, all of the bugs and issues with the framework, and I think that it's good for people to look at. And of course, I do want to mention that a lot of what the petition covers, guys, is law enforcement enforcing laws that are already currently on the books. And that really is it takes something to motivate law enforcement to do the job that they're already being paid to do, that they're not doing, right? So we will do that at the very end as well. We'll make time to do that.
And so some examples of that is trespass. So if you have a very extreme case of, for example, intrusion and harassment, like people shouting through their letterbox of the victim's door, or climbing into the garden to film it, or refusing to leave the pavement outside, those fall under harassment, and actually onto their property is trespass. And these are things that the police can enforce. And whilst they're not enforcing it, if they're not going to enforce it, then people are just going to keep doing it because they're not going to be held accountable for doing those things. they need to understand if they've got a YouTube channel and they're trying to get content, then they still need to be law-abiding citizens.
Absolutely. And bear in mind that at this point, you know, everybody knows how I don't want to use the word psychotic because that will just get trimmed into a soundbite that will try to make me look bad. But I'm going to say it like, when you become psychotic about what you're posting online, you have to know that when you are at this point, those two parental figures are not in any sort of custody. Let's reiterate right now that if they were guilty of any sort of child abuse in any family law, that would immediately carry a consequence in the criminal law, right? So as high profile as this case is, do you want to actually convince yourself that these people have been charged in a family court and been found guilty of child abuse, essentially is the claim, you would be misinformed, because the only way that there will be a child abuse charge is at the end of the family law proceedings. Then they will make a judgment. Right now, they are temporarily in state custody. That is not a guilty verdict one way or another.
Pansy. When your tween's telling you need to grow up, you might have to think about that. That's funny.
So, you know,
sorry,
that will lead me to now. I also want to point out that and I want you to clarify this for me publicly, because I'm not sure if I've been misspeaking all this time. Now, I also have kind of lumped secondary victimization into the thinking that, let's say, for instance, you have an offender that was offended against as a child becoming a victim, and then taking that same behavior and precipitating that on someone else, right? Would you be able to firmly call?
It's basically a so in the example that you just gave, repeating, say that this happened in the person's childhood.
As a child, and you got my gist. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's all right. This has happened in their childhood, and when they were teens, for example, it was all adjudicated. It became it was publicized or whatever, and so they got sort of victimized because of the publicization of it. But then a couple of years later, someone writes a book or puts out another video about it and starts going on about the same details, or starts blaming the victim in some way. This particularly happens in court cases, like we're watching it happen right now with the Chris Watts court case, where people are saying his wife did something, and so somehow that makes him entitled to kill her, if that makes sense. So because she was a rude bitch.
Right.
Oops,
or
I just
a
said
good Samaritan type situation, right? Like if you come in and you see
he's already He's already in jail. He's already been tried for the crime and found guilty.
Correct.
And he's actually admitted to having done all of this to his wife and his kid, admitted in a lot of detail how and what he did. And so trying to come back now, all these years later, saying, his wife must have been so bad because she was this or she was that or she was controlling and all this stuff saying about her, that is re-victimization. The thing is, she's not alive.
Right.
She's not alive to suffer it.
And she's being victimized as she lays in rest. Yes.
It's her family that are the victims suffering it now. Her family are the ones who are suffering the victimization because they're saying bad shit. That's right. They're saying bad shit about their daughter or sister or whatever she is, So now the family is being secondarily victimized because people are saying crap about Mrs. Watts.
Facts.
Dragging up the story all over again.
Yeah.
So that's what secondary victimization is. And in the case of Don and Candace, okay, they're already victims. Their child has been taken, stolen, kidnapped. They're a victim of kidnapping. they're just the same as the parents of Shanann Watts in that sense, except, you know, that was much more horrific crime. We don't know if we're looking at that type of crime yet, but at this stage, they're victims of a crime. Someone took the kid out of their yard. They're victims of a crime. And every time we start talking about them and their criminal history, that's secondary victimization. Because we're not focusing on the actual crime, the kid's missing. We're focusing on them and tearing them apart. And that's victimization of them.
And frankly, the tearing apart of them hasn't led to one viable tip that has even been suggested publicly. Like, what we know so far is every piece of information that's come from everywhere has been no good. Nothing. Not one good tip. So when I see content creators like DB from up there in Tennessee saying things that aren't true, but mainly, like, for instance, let me show you real quick, guys. This, in my opinion, is a secondary victimization right here. The fact that you would even poll to ask people that, like, there should be no reason why there's 2,000, 2,600 people that even have an opinion about this issue, right? Like, there's that many people that have an opinion about this issue. And this man is allowing a forum for someone to be re-victimized. Hooah.
Right. There's also like a second.
You didn't even see it.
There's also another type.
Right there.
No, we didn't see it.
Right there.
It's a poll. Hang on, let me go to big screen. Where's my big screen button? Yeah. Read it out.
It's a poll.
Read it out, Benny.
It says, do you think Don and Candace should get the boys back? Right? Let's see the results. 85% of people, and actually it just switched to 2,700. 85% say that they should not. What is also very interesting about that 85 percentile number is this right here. Aussie, how many people in the United States have a hard time distinguishing fact from opinion?
Exactly 85%.
Oh,
isn't that
how much? Now look, the other part of it is 10 and 4, right? So that leaves you a plus or minus of 1%. That makes 99% of a total, right? So you have the other quantifications for the other individuals that can look. 10%, they don't know. 4% says yes, right? So of that 14%, it is almost a mirror image of what the polls would be for someone of the population of folks that can't decipher and distinguish. Now, in your opinion, is this secondary victimization?
Absolutely. 100%. And you know what? It's secondary victimization of the boys now, because that's about the boys.
Facts. So that is.
So I'm just going to add to that. Let me just add to that, because this is a life sentence for those boys. Like, you all might just be thinking, oh, we just had an opinion, that's all. But that opinion is going to perpetuate and continue perpetuating. And these boys are going to grow into their teens and then the later teens, and they're always going to hear their name on the internet, and they're always going to be victimized again, even though they had nothing to do with anything that's going on, whether it be their parents' past or what happened to Summer. They're just going to continue being victimized for the rest of their entire lives, as long as anybody keeps bringing it up. And I'll just also add sorry, I won't jump ahead. That's basically what I say. It's a life sentence, not just for them, but also for their parents. It's a life sentence. Even if Summer is found, all this information is still going to be out there. It's a life sentence.
Facts. It is. There is no, I mean, you can't call it anything else. And so what I, what I want to help everyone identify is the sorts of channels that have, look at this guy, 10,000 voices for Summer Wells on this channel. I might have 10,000 people with me at court when someone is arrested. Well, I will tell you this. You'll have at least 8,400 people. You'll have 8,400 people.
Can I just also add to this topic? We have Cherry in the house. Cherry was also a secondary. Cherry was also a secondary victim. She had nothing to do with the crime, and she was victimized. Still bought into this and victimized. But she had nothing to do with the crime. She wasn't connected to the crime. She had nothing to do with the crime. Just a whole bunch of people went, oh, she must have the same name as a person who could be connected to the crime, and so they went after her. And so she was victimized, not for having anything to do with the crime. And maybe one day Cherry might come up and talk with us about, how she feels about that. Is it a life sentence for her? Has it died down? Is she still getting, kickback from that or whatever?
I can because, I talk to Cherry moderately regularly. And I can tell you that that the anger and I can't say the embarrassment, but I will say that the anger that she feels about being targeted, she's been living with that every day for 8 months now, 7 months. So she's even been victimized by having her speaking out as a victim who was drug into a case. She's had several of her routers sent back to have them analyzed because people just continue to victimize her and mess with her accounts and try to crack different stuff. And so poor Cherry has been through the whole gauntlet as far as the cyberbullying is concerned. I mean, it was just she had the TIR standard channel for that case times 4 other channels. Like she had a lot of big channels all with the same agenda that was saying, she had lots of people hounding her and bothering her and videoing her and her husband's place, without permission. It just became a nightmare for her. And,
and she just said that she's still suffering from it today, and people still look at her and just stare and say, oh, you're that lady on YouTube. So,
absolutely.
Things just don't go away. And I have to wonder why YouTube didn't take, because I advised Cherry to go and report those videos for doxing her. But I don't know that she did. But on the same token, I just have to wonder what YouTube's thinking by leaving those videos up, because there was a news report that came out and this person has nothing to do with it. YouTube should have taken that step right then and there, videos down.
Yeah. I think that a lot of that just plays into, the sheer speed of YouTube. It's like, you could have a blunder on YouTube and it moves so rapidly that in 2 days people have forgotten all about it because someone stepped up and took the glory from you. So I think that I know that emails from YouTube, when you've had a video flagged and you have to have a manual review requested, what they tell you right in the fine print is that they schedule reviews based upon the number of flags on a particular video. We also have to remember that so much of what we're seeing is being regulated in policed by algorithms. So there isn't a lot of times actually saying, okay, well, this isn't good for this or that, or they don't use any foresight when looking like, okay, this is on the precipice of turning into something really bad and be preventative, right? Because we know Aussie says that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And that is facts.
Correct.
That's
Correct.
facts.
And so just to add to that, everyone's talking about Don B going to Kingsport. Well, let him go there, because we're going to start writing the Kingsport police to start charging people for trespassing, because they need to.
Absolutely.
They need to protect people. Like, you know, their kids can't come home whilst idiots are going out there and stalking them and trespassing on them and stuff like that.
Facts.
So
Facts.
we all need.
I'm sorry. Let me piggyback on that real quick, because for right here, she said he's got a trip planned. Let me assure you of this. He stated in a previous video, the last one or the one before that he's submitted a few tips and hasn't heard back. I will tell you this, that I also know someone who has attempted for the last 15 days in a row to contact the TBI, and they are in fact not taking any more tips. So when someone says that they have turned in tips to the TBI, now let me tell you what they do. You can turn in a tip virtually, but they are sending back automated replies, right? There is nothing specific that TBI is responding to anyone about anything. I have seen the replies from TBI myself, and I assure you that she has not in 15 days been able to raise somebody on a telephone, is what I'm telling you. Nothing. She has not gotten through. So for someone to, and let me further piggyback on that by saying that we know the demographics, right? Most of the people that are following this case are following from somewhere else, right? Some other locale, a lot of times from another continent even. So what I will tell you is that anyone who has valuable information in that area, you done already burned up your chance to do a trip out there, is what I'm getting to. You're just going to go out there and burn gas and make clickbait, unfortunately. Now, moving on from Don B, because my wife will not care for me staying there very long. We have this.
Yes, move on. Moving along.
Moving forward. Secondary victimization. Guys, now, the reason why we're talking about this is because this framework, if you are of the 14% of Americans, you'll be able to read, or not, Americans. Thank you. I was in fear that I was somehow verbally assaulting Aussie, but she doesn't even live in this damn country. So Americans, yes, a lot of us are idiots. So what this framework is going to lay out for you is it's going to show you secondary victimization caused by criminal complaints alleging false accusations of SAs or SCs. Now, in the chat, I'm going to ask you to please abbreviate anything from here on out. I will only ask a few times until everyone gets adjusted. But if I look down in there and I see things that aren't being abbreviated how I've asked, I will start removing comments, and I will ask that moderators do remove comments that pertain to SA or SCs and do not abbreviate it. We will warn you, and eventually, if you can't stick with that protocol, we will have to ask for you to go somewhere else. So this is pertinent because there's going to be good framework in here for you to be able to apply a little more broadly to what alleging false accusations of any sort do. You can broaden this framework realistically and talk about how this victimization, just alleging criminal complaints at all. Now, imagine someone's telling you that you've KIA'd your daughter, and we'll just say that's killed in action or whatever we decide. Okay, so in action, imagine being accused. That would be worse than a secondary victimization of someone saying that you've had an SA from 40 years ago, right? So We're going to play this, guys, and I'm going to mute it because the music just ain't worth shit. But I also want to be able to hear Aussie because I'm going to stop at particular points and allow her to narrate some of this. Are you ready, Aussie? Aussie?
Yes, I am. Sorry, I hit the mute button. Whoops.
Okay, here we go. Now, you go ahead and narrate if you would, because you had a very graceful way that we were talking about this backstage, Aussie. You ready?
Yep. So, secondary victimization caused by criminal complaints alleging false accusations of sexual crimes. Let's break unjust social conventions. Go to the next one, Benny.
All right.
The threat of being charged with false accusation silences the victims of sexual crimes. Let's just start right there. So when people make false accusations, they're making it harder for people who actually are victims of SA to get their complaints put across. So if you that's just in a standard sort of reaction that law enforcement have. They get flooded with false accusations, and they take an approach like this. This happened probably about 20 years ago. I guess the courts took an approach that that they couldn't believe actual victims, and so a lot of actual victims got lost in the process. And so we're actually come to the other side of that at the moment. It's still a problem, but that's the reason this video is addressing it. Because of unjust prejudices and social conventions about SA and the victims of SC, the victims of SC are sometimes alleged of making false accusations. So it's a very what's the word I'm looking for?
Let me piggyback. I think I can fill it in. Essentially, from the law enforcement perspective, what happens is because there is quite a volume of false accusations of all types. What happens is that the police essentially, I guess you could say, compassion fatigue, so that the victims of certain secondary victimizations or false accusations, they end up closing their mouth because of the way they're viewed and treated by law enforcement and the community in general, right? Because now and I'm not going to go too long about this, but how this pertains to this, I'm prefacing this by saying I am in no way claiming that anyone has made a false accusation of an SA or an SC. What we're doing is we're making comparisons and objectifying the way that this is pertinent to us. Now, so if you are being victimized and you have even law enforcement looking at you with a very side eye, that essentially is what makes victims that are falsely accused shut up, right? Am I right, Aussie?
Right. And look, I can actually quote or name a current pop culture case that's going on right now where a very good portion of survivors, we call ourselves survivors, have taken a stance against what we think is false allegations. And we could be wrong, but what we're feeling is that let me just say the court case is Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, and she has what's been admitted into the court is her, in her own words, recorded on an audio recording saying she's the one who was doing the DV, and he was actually always running from her. So we've got this 2-hour recording of her discussing how she gets annoyed with him because he runs away. So just given that evidence, it was presented in a UK court, not in America, but anyway, that has actually caused a lot of actual victims to say, well, she's making it bad for us, because when we tell our truth now, we're not going to be believed. Like when this all comes out that she is actually lying, that she is the one who is doing it, but she's the one claiming she's the victim. She's trying to jump on our boat. She's queen of the Me Too movement and all these other organizations. She's been standing up as a victim, and she's not. She's a fake victim. She's not a victim. And so it's made all of us very, very cranky, because it makes us seem like it's just making it worse for us, basically.
Facts. I want to just address Grace really quick. I do agree with you, sweetheart. A 5-year-old is not to blame. She is the victim. There are, unfortunately, and there's no way you can look around it, there are other people being victimized. Right now, if you are not supporting Don and Candace's hunt to find their child, you're not looking for Summer either, because that's what Don and Candace are doing. But guess what? You can't search your own property, but so many times out there, we do know that there is a pattern of criminality, felonious, major felony criminality out there. An indictment with 30 of the players in that area, all for just the standard asshole-ish stuff, right? So, I bring that up. I say that to say that the ideal that Don is just going to be able to walk all over God's green acre out there and do whatever he wants and look wherever he wants. That's not the case, because there are some bad guys out there, right? Now, let me tell you this. A 5-year-old is not to blame, but the way that a 5-year-old, the dynamic changes, and I know that you're referring to Summer. Now, when you start referring to the S that's alleged and uncompartmentalized here, what you have is, in my opinion, at that time, you had what was 2 victims. You had a perpetrator, or whatever you would want to have called Don, but he also was a victim, right? When you are a child, you cannot understand the mechanics of SA or SC, right? Like, God hasn't put that on you yet. Even if you've been a victim to it, the way that you precipitate it is not in an aggressive, hateful manner. You are just playing out.
Let's just pull it up there, Benny. It's getting out of control. Just pull it up there. Nobody is saying that it didn't happen 40 years ago. What we're saying is 2 kids of different ages did something. Nobody knows the details. It has to go through a court and be adjudicated before we can say this is a fact. All right. Right now, it's just rumors. We don't know if it's true. We don't know if it's false. But what we're trying to describe here is, when people do make false accusations, they make it difficult for people who are victims. And it's not just the people who have been victims, who did actually report the crime and did actually get some sort of adjudication from it in a court. This is also for keeping our community safe, because if we let an allegation run rampant that isn't true, even if it is true, the whole letting it run rampant in the public, it stops future victims from reporting. You want people to report. And so if there is any sort of social stigma on falsity or truthfulness, if there's any sort of stigma associated to either, then people aren't going to report. And then when you've got people who are not reporting, and this is a really big problem in America right now, not just with sexual crimes, but with any sort of crime, people are not reporting crimes. They're not reporting things they know about. And it's because of the social stigma attached to the reporting of crimes. And you're either getting, right, you get called a snitch, or you get called a liar.
They'd rather be, I've seen people that would rather be mislabeled in their sexual identification. In fact, they'd rather say, call me gay, but don't call me a snitch, right? Like, do not call me that, right? Like, you call me anything in the world you want, but don't call me a snitch. And when you have that, and that's a fear, Right. If you're fearful to call forward and give help to any sort of systemic issue that is in a community, like if you live next to a dope house and you don't call in every time there's something crazy going on, shame on you. Right. Moving on. We want there are other graphics for this this video. So let's move forward. Are you ready, Aussie? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure we should go any further. We've probably done what we can with that video. I'm not sure that the other screens are actually.
Okay.
It's just going to be repeating what we just said. But in essence, what we're saying is not that the people who reported 40 years that something happened to 40 years ago are liars. We're not saying that. We're saying we don't know. We don't know. There's a lot of background that Don has said where that part of his family have a reason to lash out at him.
Facts.
Maybe he has a reason to lash out at them. I haven't heard him do it yet, but we're certainly hearing them lash out at him. So, we're going to find that until, some sort of charges are laid in that area and he gets convicted, then we can start going, oh, well, that poor kid, this is what she went through. That's the case. Right now, it's a he said, she said, and there's absolutely no facts associated with it at all. And this moves us on to the person who brought this up to start with and neurodiversity. All of that has to do with neurodiversity.
Correct. And that will move us forward to neurodiversity. I'm going to give you a short rundown. Now, we're bringing up neurodiversity, guys, in regards to the statement, correct? And just generally, but I want to focus my portion of my input. I want to focus on neurodiversity in terms of standards for questioning. If someone's legs are they have the inability to walk, we create a special ramp for them and we create ways for them to get in. They're handicapped. Now, there are a number of people that have a certain limited capacity of some sort. And that
social capacity.
Correct. Saying a social capacity. So what questioning standards, what interrogation standards, they don't change. They don't divert. They are a flat plane, and they are made for people that are of typical social adjustability, right?
Right. So basically, just to simplify what Benny just said, the standards for statement analysis are based on normal people. Okay. So what is normal? What's the way a typical brain behaves? What's a typical brain? Well, when we look at the stats that Benny just pulled up and showed you that, 85% of people don't actually understand the difference between opinion and fact. Well, that's normal. 85% of people, it's normal to not understand the difference between a fact and an opinion. That's normal. But we have this 25% who actually do understand. So we are atypical. All right. So you've got the typical brain and you have the atypical brain. So in the atypical brain, how they are going to say something, respond to something, into the way they interact socially, it's all quite different. And it depends on how different they are. And all we're talking about is difference. Okay. Right. There's a thing called indifference.
Let me add that when you have a standard for something like this, there's a very standardized response that they expect as well. So anytime you don't understand neurodiversity, what you're allowing to have happen is a pollution of, for instance, a statement. When you don't understand that someone stopped going to school at 8th grade because maybe they had a very low functioning IQ, or a high functioning low IQ. So that standardized response is expected because of the lack of understanding of neurodiversity. Sorry to interrupt.
That's all right. You're exactly right. And so what I'd like to point out is that there's a thing called indifference, okay? And it means that you don't give a shit if somebody thinks differently, okay? So what I'm going to say about Chris McDonough's, I'm sorry if I wasn't supposed to say his name, but I did.
You're fine.
His statement analysis of Don is that it doesn't take into account Don's neurodiversity. And so saying is that he has a complete indifference to the diversity of the way people think and operation, the way the brain functions.
He just expects that every single person that sits down in that chair is of an adequate neurodiversity, that they can understand the questioning and be able to respond effectively so as to not put themselves unwittingly under the radar, essentially.
His model is neurotypical. He uses a neurotypical
Correct.
model, but then he finds a non-neurotypical candidate and applies a neurotypical model to that candidate. And in Don's case, he's not neurotypical. I mean that I think there's anything wrong with him as such, but it's certainly he certainly is a different personality to normal personalities. And I will put my hand up first and say I am non-neurotypical. I have high functioning autism. That's why I research my ass off and I do a lot of education. I don't stop educating. So I've done, several university degrees and studied externally with Harvard University and the Louvain University in France. So it doesn't mean I'm not smart. I actually am smart, but where I come apart is in social interactions, in normal functioning with social interactions. So if you were going to apply Chris McDonough's standard neurotypical model to me personally, going to come out clean either. I'm not going to come out shiny looking normal adult at all. And quite often I find people actually switch off when I start talking because I talk too complex. Like because I have been educated, I use bigger words, I guess. And, normal person would go, yeah, but, whereas I would go, however.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that I've done anything or that I'm guilty about anything. It's just it's just the way that I phrase my words. But just to relate that back to Don, I'm not saying Don is autistic, high functioning autistic. I'm just saying he's different, and he's not normal in the sense of he lives in a city. He's got a regular job. He's like an office Johnny and pencil pusher, and the general sort of picture of what we would call normal. And so his responses are atypical. Now, if you don't have some understanding of psychological neurodiversity, then I don't believe you can have a model that applies to people, that applies to atypical thinkers. And
so was and I don't mean to cut you off, but what she's saying now for the layman's is that the model in which Don was interrogated with, it's indifferent because it doesn't even apply to him, right?
Right. Exactly. Absolutely. And what he's doing is he's helping to create a stigma around different thinkers. Okay, if you don't act normal, then there's a stigma. You must be a sexual deviant, or you must be a criminal in some way. You must have a criminal mind in some way, and that's not the case. And one of there's another channel called the body language. What are they called? The body language panel, something like that. Yeah. So these guys, they had the perfect example that they could have used. So hang on. All confused. So one of their last was on Robert Durst. Okay, this is a court case that's ongoing right now. Robert Durst. I mean, the guy's guilty as sin. I know we're not supposed to say that till after the court case is over, but he is. We'll just put it that way. But the thing about Robert Durst is that he is autistic. And what they're doing is applying this neurotypical model, Robert Durst, who we already know is autistic. And it was the perfect opportunity to show how to look at the autistic mind and pick out the criminality rather than just saying the autistic mind seems criminal. Do you get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They had a perfect opportunity to do it, and they didn't take it. And to me, that sort of spells out that they actually don't have a model that applies to the atypical brain. They only have this one model, and they apply it to everybody. So I actually write a comment on their wall that they had this perfect opportunity to analyze a autistic mind that was criminal, that did commit several murders, and they just completely screwed it up and applied all this typical stuff to him. Like he has a lot of facial twitches, which in high functioning or very common. Yes. So they point out, like his twitches, that these are signs of deception, and they're not. They're just your twitches. Right. The fact that he's being filmed in front of a camera, most autistics don't like cameras, and so their twitches might be more obvious. Or there's also in that particular thing, he was high as meth, apparently, according to himself.
Yeah, he was a big crystal meth user, and right. He actually, I know quite a lot about that case in down there in Galveston, Corpus Christi. Meth is a bad problem on the beach for the people that live around there.
Right. So he admitted that just before he sat down with those guys for those interviews, that he racked his brains on bloody meth. So there was a lot of behaviours that were associated with his meth use that they didn't quite pick up either. They were like, all the other, like he had a dry mouth, so he was just swallowing and belching and shit. And those were probably more associated to having, done meth a few minutes beforehand. And I was also dashing out in between interviews and having another toke, so they kind of like, they missed a lot of really good opportunity. These differences, the differences of a drug user, the differences of an autistic person who actually does have a criminal mind. So I just found that quite funny, and it's just proof to me that they don't have a model that takes into account difference.
No, and so let me again make it layman, because I've been thinking of a way to metaphorically give it to you. And so essentially, let's imagine that the only way that you can prove your innocence is if you can run you can run up the sidewalk 10 feet. Well, so if you are paralyzed, quite naturally, you're not running up the sidewalk 10 feet, basically, essentially, immediately, eliminating you or adding you to a certain group of people based upon a limitation that you have, right? And that's what it is, guys. It's you cannot hold. When someone goes to court and they plead insanity, the reason why that's such a powerful case is because now you start entering in experts and you start entering in science that could be questionable, because we're on the cusp of breakthrough all the time, right? Like you can actually see that the ideals, the actual concrete ideals of neurodiversity were created they were coined in 1998. It's when it could be identified.
Judy Singer's an Australian.
Yeah, and let me tell you. Here's the layman's information for neurodiversity. It states that neurodiversity refers to variation in the human brain regarding sociability, learning, attention, mood, and other mental functions in a non-pathological sense. It was coined. So what that means is that whatever you're seeing someone do enact, and say is not pathological. It means that it doesn't apply to everyone, correct?
Kind of. Non-pathological means something different, but I get where you're coming from, so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at, guys. Now, we do have one other thing that we want to talk about before we move on to the amendment to the petition. It is the obstruction of justice. We want to talk about that.
Oh, yeah. Rightio. Let me just shrink the screen so I can find my notes on that.
So the definition of the obstruction of justice is an act that corruptly or by threats of force or by any threatening letter or communication influences, obstructs, or impedes or endeavors to influence, obstruct, or impede the due administration of justice. That also includes jury tampering, jury pool pollution, all of that.
Right. So in Australia, it's called perversion of justice or perverting the course of justice, and it can apply to cases where no court trial has even started, and it's only an investigation stage, and people start meddling with the investigation. Let's just say, as far as YouTube is concerned, otherwise law-abiding people can get caught out telling stupid lies or making up stories without realizing the dire consequences of getting caught. Now, in Australia and UK, this is a common charge. It's used frequently. The police will use it when they can, but the fact that your police won't use it is part of what's going into our petition, because there is an obstruction of justice thing in America, law in America, that just don't apply, and they really need to start applying it. So to act or embark on a course of conduct which has a tendency to and is intended to pervert the course of justice, the course of public justice, requires only showing the tendency or possibility in fact happened. There must merely be the possibility that what the accused did, if not corrected, might lead to an injustice occurring. That's how it reads in Australian and UK law. The classic definition that we give is conduct which relates to judicial... Sorry?
I'm sorry. The lag is getting longer, I think. I'm looking up the Tennessee case law for obstruction of justice.
Rightio. I'll keep reading while you do that. Conduct which relates to judicial proceedings, civil or criminal, whether or not they have been instituted, but which are within the contemplation of the wrongdoer whose conduct was designed to affect the outcome of them. So even if no offence has actually been committed, the interference with an investigation that might result in a court case can amount to perverting the course of justice. And this may include publishing things to try to prejudice a fair trial. This is something that Benny harps on about a lot.
Woo!
Sorry, I shouldn't say harps on about. He's not a fishwife. Something that Benny puts a lot of emphasis on.
A lot.
We all got to remember that a fair trial applies not just to the offender, but also fairness to the victim. So when it comes to fairness of the victim, that comes in at sentencing stage. But however, the way that the investigation is done and the things that we are saying about these people prior to any charges being laid effect, it affects a fair trial. Influencers of the public should be careful what is said and written about investigations and court proceedings, especially online. The publication of matters that are intended to prejudice a trial can be an offence of perverting the course of justice, or in America, obstruction of justice. The implications for those posting on popular social media are relevant and such postings attach as much liability as traditional print media. The fact that matters may be published under a pseudonym will often not prevent detection and arrest. So this can include making false allegations is included in obstruction of justice or perverting the course of justice, which is like trying to get a person in trouble with the police so that they're arrested or charged falsely with a crime. So this is sort of where that video was sort of going that we were discussing earlier. If it turns out that it was a false allegation against Don, then that person who made the allegation absolutely should be charged. However, America doesn't follow these things up where they should. I don't think it's a totally false allegation. I think something happens. So where that falls in the spectrum of things is a completely different other ballgame. But the course of justice includes criminal investigation. Therefore, exposure to the mere risk of criminal proceedings can be enough to prejudice the course of public justice.
That is a very, very that's a very bad problem. We are seeing a massive obstruction, and we don't have a bunch of creators on here fighting for due process right now. We have a bunch of creators on here trying to, when you try to crumble someone who is not currently locked up, or you don't hear Don's out there. Like if he was being investigated every single day and they were following him, and he'd tell you that, you'd know that, right? Like he's pretty transparent in that way. So, it's a complete abomination of justice. When you try to pull Don and Candace down, what you're pulling down with them is due process in America. It's what you're pulling down, and that's facts.
All right. And then when you think about it, if Summer is found, she's got to live with this for the rest of her life, that her parents were put on public display like this. So, so it's also a secondary victimization. If she comes back and she's returned to her parents, then she's going to go through over and over lifetime sentence of secondary victimization because she went missing in the first instance.
Right.
And the things that people have said about her parents. So it ties back to that as well.
I've even heard that, oh man, like if she would have, like if they lived in the city and she would have went for a walk, she would have been okay. And that is making her
a load of rubbish.
Yeah, you're making her a victim because she's the reason why she went missing, because she went for a walk or whatever, right? Like, like
that's victim blaming. That's victim blaming.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Absolutely. And so just one more thing about the neurodiversity of the case, which ties into the other things being said about Don and Candace, is that is, not normal. There's two extremes here that I can point out that are not normal. And one extreme is having OCD and in the way you keep your house. And so I've got an aunt. I'm going to say her name in case she ever hears this. But I've got an aunt and she's extremely OCD, and nobody in their right mind, especially kids, could possibly live in that OCD environment. Like she's just terrible. Like it's to an extent that you're just paranoid. You go to a house and you just want to sit in the seat and don't move. You want to drink a cup of tea, you just want to sit in your seat and don't move because everything's got to be so perfect. She'll take all of her groceries and she will unpack every single piece of fruit and wrap it in a bit of cloth to store her fruit in the fridge. And she has and they're all lined up in a nice, neat little rows. If you mess up her little rows in her fridge, she gets cranky. It's just stuff like that. So that's one end of OCD that, it's very difficult for kids to live in that sort of environment. But then, and also you transfer that to your kids. You give them OCD because they had to be OCD to live with you. So that's not a help. Right, that's not a healthy level of cleanliness or whatever. That's an unhealthy level, because you're now, like my cousin, she is OCD just like her mum now. And then you can go to the other extreme, which is, probably back to talking, just in my experience and in talking with people on the autism spectrum, they can seem, to somebody else going inside their house, can seem very, very disorganized, but they know where everything is in their house. It might seem like a total mess to everybody else, but you say to them, where's the torch? They know exactly where that torch is.
Right.
So that's sort of an aspect. But there are also very messy autistics who have no idea where anything is, and they just eat and drop their food wherever they're sitting, and like just make a complete mess. But they're very, very smart in what it is that they're doing. Like they're probably university educated or whatever. So it's not a symptom of how they're going to treat someone else or their child or their education or anything like that. So disorganization is not an uncommon thing. And then just add to all of that, on top of all of that, as Benny knows, I'm currently renovating my house, and I've been taking my sweet merry time. Most people say it never takes as short as you think it is. It's always longer. Well, I have actually strapped mine out to over a year now, and but I've got some sticks holding up parts of my cladding on my ceiling, and I've got timber sort of starting one part of my house, and I don't even have like a living area set up right now. It's all under cloths and sheets, because I've got timber and sawdust and rubbish everywhere, because I don't have a workshop like outside my house, so I'm doing it all inside. Wow. And so the way Candace's house looks at the moment is not so much a distant cry from the way mine looks at the moment, because I am renovating, and I know that. Right, no, I know they're renovating as well.
We know for sure that they've had the police search their house, toss it upside down, a reported number, 7 reported times, evidently. Sorry, I'm reading 3 different things. Natasha, right, and hold on one second. Awesome. Natasha M., I saw that you became a member. Thank you very much for that. And the super chat, thank you so much for that. I have made a commitment to take all of the super chats from this month, which I will be paid next month for, and apply those to the Summer Wells reward, or wherever it needs to go. If it needs to go directly to them, then we won't, we'll talk about it. But I'm sorry to have cut you off, Aussie. Go ahead.
That's all right. I just want to reply to G Dog. There was a carnival guy in the hometown where I come from who sexually abused and murdered a girl up there, and he ended up traveling all over Australia and doing crimes to a lot of women all over Australia before he was caught, because carnies, it's what we call them, carnies or carnival guys. They're all over the place. They're on the road constantly, so they're very, very difficult to catch. And so yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that, G Dog. I just wanted to add a little comment to that and let you know I read it.
So I think that this is a perfect time to segue over to the amendment to the petition. So guys, what we want to do now is I know you can see here, Aussie, I know you've given me some different things. Hold on one second. Lizzie, if you would like to come up here and be a part of the amendment in that process, I'm sorry, we just did it so quickly. If you'd like to come up, please say in the chat that you would or you wouldn't. If you would, I'll get you the link immediately, and you also could have the floor if that's what you would prefer. So until then, what I want to do is I want to just show you the guts of the petition, guys. Now, this is Lizzie's baby. I'm just the one that she's a busy lady, and I'm on the computer, and so we just went ahead and did it this way. So Lizzie says that it's our child, it's our baby. So I guess it's our baby. And what we've got so far, guys, is it's. Let's go back here. Oh, hold on. I don't want to do that yet. Here we are. What the name of the petition, for those that aren't aware, the new faces and the new teammates. This petition is on change.org. We will put. Can someone put a link in the chat now? And I will. I'll pin it. Lizzie, where you at? Did you want to come up, Lizzie? What'd she say? Lizzie.
Come on, Gail.
No, thank you. Okay. All right, Lizzie. Lizzie, everyone is comfortable with the way that we're amending this. So for those that aren't aware, the title for the petition is Stop the Exploitation and Solicitation of Crimes Against Children. That is also the headline for sharing. Now, the general mission statement for this is that we wish to stop the exploitation of crimes against children on all social media platforms. Our aim is to stop people creating content for the sole purpose of sensationalism and personal profit that exploits young victims of crime. Furthermore, in the chase for justice, these creators are also meddling and polluting the jury pools. There is extensive data that reflects the power social media plays on due process. Now, I went ahead and I put the framework in here, and I think that that's probably not a bad idea, because that's also going to be the meat of the petition letter. So this is the framework, guys, that's going with the petition title, Stop the Exploitation and Solicitation of Crimes Against Children. Here we go. Do you have a problem if I read it, or do you want to read it, Aussie?
Either way, I'm happy either way.
Okay.
You want me to? We'll take turns if you like.
Let's do that. And when I quit, you just take up. So it cannot be stressed enough that we understand the importance of circulating the face of missing children to ensure members of the public will recognize them if they are spotted within the community. We appreciate this in the exact purpose of Amber Alerts, and we also understand traditional media and social media are integral tools to be used in publicizing Amber Alerts with the goal of locating the missing. Go ahead.
Okay, just everyone type 1 in chat if that's good for you guys, or if you think it should be worded a little differently, make a suggestion. Otherwise, tap 1. We'll just get feedback as we go through each bit, Benny.
Sure. Okay. However, traditional media and now social media play an unsavory role in exploiting child victims and inflicting, here we go, guys, secondary victimization on their family members during what is unequivocally the very worst moment in their lives.
I think I've spelt that incorrectly. It's supposed to be unequivocally, not unequivocally. If you see a little red line, yeah, wherever you see a little red line, correct it. This is stuff I was just typing it like straight off the top of my head as fast as I could.
It's great.
So is everyone happy so far?
I'm seeing a 1. And I'm sorry that you're having a headache.
Lizzie, you need to give us feedback that this is going the way that you're expecting it to go, because I'll just explain to people what I've done here is I've read through all of the comments that have been posted against the petition and taken pretty much everybody's ideas and put them into these paragraphs to sort of include everybody's feedback. But if you didn't post anything, if you didn't on the actual petition, then your whatever it is you you would like to be included is not going to be included. Opportunity, if you want to speak up and say, like, with this, or we should add that, please go ahead and do it, and we'll have a go at wording it.
Facts.
So I'll read the next. The damage this causes is far-reaching and lasts many decades after the event, not only for the victims of crimes and their families, but also for the communities who pay for the wide range of public services that go towards investigating and solving the crime, as well as treating the lasting psychological aftermath, even punishing the perpetrator. So basically what I'm getting at there is that, after everyone's completely torn Don and Candace apart to get psychological treatment for the trauma that we've inflicted on them, or I don't say us, but you know who I'm talking about. The trauma that we've inflicted on the way that it's changed their lives, all of this needs to be dealt with. And it may even be that it's got to be dealt with before they can even get their boys back. And it's also it's already, as Benny has said, punishing the perpetrator. When we find out who the perpetrator actually is, it's already tainted that jury pool as to who everybody thinks the perpetrator actually is. And in
if they were to come with a weak case against a different suspect, I think that it would be very hard to sit that man on a jury and ask him.
Even a strong case, Benny. Even a strong case. Look at the Cash Gernon case. There's a very, 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 very strong case against Darren Brown. It's as strong as it gets against Darren Brown. But all the people who were trashing Monica, they now don't think Darren Brown's a perpetrator. So they've got the perpetrator. They've got a very, very good case against him, and that dude is not walking out of jail. He's going to get a conviction because of the amount of damning evidence.
They went aggravated. His case was aggravated. His case was aggravated. And in fact, for those who don't know or aren't aware, but Darian Brown out of Dallas, Texas, where I live at, has been indicted for the aggravated murder of a child under 8 years old or 6 years old. So they are not at this point even considering taking a insanity plea. That wording in that indictment being enhanced the way it was, that man is looking at the needle. So that's a beautiful thing. Moving on with this. While some of our concerns were neatly bundled in a Netflix docuseries in 2020 named Trial by Media, if you haven't seen that, you need to go watch that tonight. And also addressed in another Netflix docuseries in 2021 named Crime Scene, The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel. I would watch the Cecil Hotel first and then the Trial by Media. Anyhow, these documentaries only cover the media shenanigans involved with adult victims. Our concern extends to child victims, their families.
Extend.
Okay, no, yeah, you're right. Extend to child victims, their families, and the financial strain placed on the communities that these crimes occur in.
So just to give everyone a quick rundown, vanishing at the Cecil Hotel, the true crime community going after, everyone thought Morbid was guilty, so they all started harassing. Just want to type Morbid into your YouTube channel, you will find everybody going after Morbid. He had nothing to do with anything. He was a secondary victim, just like Cherry was. Everyone just decided for some reason he must be the guy. They all went after him, and the guy was on the verge of self-deletion. I'm not going to say the S word because it's not allowed on YouTube, but on the very verge of self-deletion because of the true crime community going after him and saying that he was somehow connected to this crime, and it wasn't even a crime. We know now, at this late stage, we know now it wasn't even a crime. She did it herself. She had a psychotic episode and fell into the water tank herself. So it had nothing to do with him. He didn't even know her. He got dragged into it because of the YouTube community. And the docuseries on Netflix goes right into the YouTube community's role in doing that to this guy. So interesting as well. So yeah, go. Oh, I'll read the next one. In support of Summer Wells, her siblings, her parents, her neighbours, and the Kingsport community, I want to highlight the unnecessary and confounding issues that have been thrust on them by an unruly mob who is profiting from their pain, suffering, and ongoing expenses. So essentially, you know, sorry, Benny, did you lose your screen? You've taken your screen off.
Yeah, my computer, if I let it sit for too long, it goes to sleep and then it boots me out and I got to come back in. So I am sorry. Here we go right there.
All good. Yep. So basically, the ongoing search expenses are, you know, the more we add all these extra theories to the search efforts, the more they've got to search. And so we're widening the search instead of narrowing the search. So this is what I'm talking about when I say the ongoing search expense. If Don and Candace do manage to get the Texas EquiSearch back again, they're now looking at this big, broad range of possible scenarios instead of having narrowed the search from their first effort. So, yeah, so it's having the opposite effect. It's costing more, basically. Go on.
Absolutely. You're putting a strain on every single resource when you do that.
Correct. Ranging from thousands of false tips that waste time, resources, and funding of law enforcement, to the defamation and slander of family members, to putting siblings in danger by strangers sneaking around their property in efforts to generate social media content, ultimately causing them to be ripped away from their family, on top of the trauma of the child remaining missing. We do not believe that provision of more information from law enforcement will curb this unruly behaviour. So I'm actually addressing people who say, well, if law enforcement just told us more, be doing all these things. Well, that's rubbish. It's a matter of law enforcement. Yeah, it doesn't matter if law enforcement tells us more or not. It's still going to happen. Like people are still going to want their bloody channels to be churning out the money. So, Benny, we've got some suggestions here on replacing the word shenanigans to because you pulled up at that too. So you might reckless behaviour is one of the suggestions in the previous paragraphs.
Shenanigans. Where was it at? Where did it go? Hold on. I got so many.
Where did it go? It's in
there it is, right here.
The paragraph about Netflix documentaries. Yeah,
media.
Reckless behaviour or something like that. The reckless behaviour of media.
Okay.
The reckless behaviour. Let's just say the reckless behaviour of content creators and media. The reckless behaviour of content creators and media.
Okay.
Rightio. Okay, so
are we to the reforms?
mission? Right. So this is a part where we're looking at how are we going to change things. First of all, we haven't actually identified who we're asking to change things, but Benny and I are working on that right now. At the moment, it's broadly not emailing anybody in particular. It's just very broadly being put out there. But we're going to get to some specifics very shortly. And so the Office of Victims of Crimes, we're going to approach them to sort of help us with our petition. And because they're connected to the DOJ, they can actually help us get the DOJ to consider some of our suggestions. And so these are our mission statements, basically, as far as, the types of things we want them to start considering at the DOJ.
Facts. Number 2 is to establish a code of ethics applicable to true crime content creators. There are no easy locatable internet resources for content creators to learn about ethical behavior, the laws that govern their behavior, or what is expected of them in social media community guidelines as it pertains to primary and secondary victimization. Professional journalists have easily locatable code of ethics that they are well versed with, the presence of which allows the public to call out unethical behavior with some precision.
Yep. So essentially, I think that's self-explanatory, but basically we don't have a code of ethics, and we have discussed this in a previous live stream. So if you want to go back and hear sort of a broader discussion about that, about what we think is ethical behavior and how we're going to define ethical behavior, because this will be another discussion that we want all of you to be involved in, like setting these parameters of what we think is ethical behavior, and then getting it out there on Google and search engines so that anybody who types in YouTube creators and ethical behavior get this page, and they get a defined set of guidelines. And then we can also approach YouTube and other platforms like Facebook and Twitter and whatever, to have them included in their community guidelines. So that's what we're talking about there.
Yes, Janet Melissa, you are correct. I do seem to be the director of a lot of content. Moving on. 3 is to encourage social media giants to include reporting tools for exploitation of children. Current reporting tools only address sexual exploitation and bullying of children. They do not address exploitation of victims of other crimes or primary and secondary victimization. Just as we protect religion and race, gender neutrality, we also need to protect victims of crime, since the same stigmas are attached to and perpetuate the same behaviors.
There's a spelling error there. You'll need to correct that. Behaviors. I must have spelled it the Aussie way.
Yep. Just as you did recognize. We're not mad at you.
Can you flip over to your community section where you posted this, because I have reformulated number 4 and I've got a 5, 6, and 7 now too. And if you just go over to your community tab, and it's my comment underneath your community tab, underneath that post, I put a comment underneath it.
Sorry, guys. It's part of it, right? If I can't pass over it too many times without hitting it. There's just so much great positive stuff coming in, and I don't want anyone to feel like they're not getting blessed a little bit. What do we have here?
Don't get sidetracked. You're looking for my comment to find 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Yes, Amy Lou, Mariska.
If it makes it any easier for you, I can actually post them one at a time into the private chat, and you can just copy and paste them that way if you like.
I don't even see your comment in here unless you commented to someone's comment.
No, it was my comment.
There it is.
Okay.
Okay.
You found it?
Nope.
Okay, we'll just do one at a time. Okay, so I'm going to replace number 3, which you have there, because I just shuffled them around a little bit. So we'll just chuck number 3 in. So
take number 3 out.
See, yeah, take number 3 and put this one in its place. It's in private chat. You got it?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so you can read that for the audience.
The amended number 3 is to enlighten true crime content creators about the need for sensitivity and care, employing public awareness programs like those provided by the Office for Victims of Crime to educate content creators about the damaging effects their content may have. Hold on. I'm going to amend this. May have to victims and criminal.
On victims, their families. Sorry, I didn't post the rest of it. On victims, their families, investigations, due process, financial resource, and the local communities that those crimes occur in. Do you want me to do it slower this time? Hang on. Let me give it to you. Have on victims. Hang on. I'll just paste it in for you. I think we've got a text limitation in chat. Okay. You got it?
Yep.
On their families, investigations, due process, financial resources, and the local communities that those crimes occur in.
Perfect.
Okay, so I have to do this in 2 parts this time, as well.
This is 4, right?
This is 4. Oh, come on! I got to do this in 2 sentences because of the character limitation in the private chat. So here it comes. First sentence.
Your end word was trauma.
Yep. And then space for the next sentence because it's not a new paragraph. So while you're doing it, I'll read it out. To help victims of crime find support. Employ awareness programs like those provided by the Office for Victims of Crime to direct victims of crime to public services and resources that can help them survive such trauma. Just as we flash mental health hotlines, etc., in our content that involves mental health topics, we should also flash victims of crime services in our true crime content to make sure the victims and their families know who to reach out for support. And I've also got I've got them for the end of this document. We'll paste them to the end of this document.
Lizzie, you liking it or are you loving it? All right.
All right. Ready for number 5?
I am.
It's going to be in 2 sentences again. So I'll read it. Fiddling. To enlighten the general public about social stigmas associated with victimization. Employing public awareness programs like those provided by the Office for Victims of Crime to help the general public understand the importance of reporting crime and the devastating effects of social stigmas, including how it contributes to lower reporting of crimes and, in turn, higher crime rates within our own communities.
There was some code that came in on the end of it. Sorry.
What?
There was some code that came in. I don't know. It was something from your end. Some color.
It's not
showing numbers. I've already deleted it.
Whoop. Yes. Yeah, sorry. It's not showing at my end. So, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
Got
with
that?
some code in there. You want to read that again one time? Because I
All
was
right.
messing around with it.
To enlighten the general public about social stigmas associated with victimization, employing public awareness programs like those provided by the Office of Victims of Crime to help the general public understand the importance of reporting crimes and the devastating effects of social stigmas, including how it contributes to lower reporting of crimes and, in turn, higher rates of crimes within our own communities. You just replace that word, their own communities, to our own communities, because it applies to all of us, not just theirs.
There it is. I
Okay, so number
I feel like
6.
that's good. That is
Radio.
good.
Number 6. Victims or primary, secondary. Hang on. Damn, it cut me off.
I'll cut off. Just go to crimes.org. Hopefully that'll fit in there.
Yeah, hang on. I'll give you the rest
Sorry,
of
guys.
the
This
sentence.
is like the not so exciting part of covering true crime when you're trying to make a difference. Like I see some of the people are starting to leave, and
That's all right.
yeah, that's okay.
So this was number 4 that we deleted before. So I'm just putting it back again. We don't need to read through that one again.
Primary
And then
secondary.
now, originally, Benny had tried to give me access to the petition, and it wouldn't let me in so that I could do all this for you. So you're all involved in the arduous process of updating the petition. Okay, we're up to number 7 now.
Yeah.
And that's it. We're on the last one, peeps. This is where we need to get social media people involved in what we're doing.
Absolutely. If you know somebody that's an influencer or something, guys, now that we have this new framework in there, I'm going to ask everyone, man, please just do another push on this thing. You know, let's do another push. Like we're almost at 1,000. I know we need tens and tens of thousands to really do something with the petition, but let's continue to see some trend, some upward trend in this. Please. This is so important. There's other content creators that are talking about this is a financial move for us. Let me tell you what. So we found out what the money, you can't pull any money off of change.org. That money helps you to navigate your petition, essentially. There's no money that we're pulling off of any of this. The money that's been put in has been put in by good people to help assist in the fees that change.org charges to maneuver and navigate your petition for you. Facts? Facts.
So we've got number 7 in there for you.
Where am
To
I
implore
at?
social. Number 7. You need to scroll 3 comments up
part.
in. To implore social media giants to be proactive in support of victims of crime. When victims' families use social media to circulate Amber Alerts and posts to keep the attention on their missing child, community guidelines should warn and then punish commenters for attacks, vitriol, hatred, threats, accusations, and making demands for information the family is comfortable putting into the public domain. The removal of monetization for any content that victimizes children, their siblings, or the family members is a high priority.
How do I do the
What are you lost on?
I'm trying to make it in italics.
Don't worry about italics. Just put it in there.
All right.
Just copy and paste, because I did capitals where I was doing emphasis.
It's in there. I really think that that's a strong sentence to close on, is that the removal of monetization for any content that victimizes children's, their siblings or family members is a high priority. That
Can you bold?
That needs to be. Hold on. There's got to be some extra to that, right? Like,
we'll come back to that, because I know there's some editing that you can do there. I just don't remember how to, but we'll come back to that. We shall come back to that. When you make me an administrator on the petition, I can go and fix some things up for it.
Okay.
You still haven't done that yet. It's a lot easier for you to make me.
I have to figure out how to do that. Even it is not cut and dry, and how that whole situation goes through. So you said go here.
Right, we'll get on the phone and do it on the phone. So this is the last bit, and I just want to put this in for other content creators if they're doing a true crime content that involves victims or child victims and their families. Copy and paste captions for content creators. We've got the Victim Hotline, and there's also a chat link. Can you see them, Benny?
Yeah, gotcha.
And then here's the chat link. So there you go. Put that at the bottom of the petition so everybody can see it and copy and paste it. Now, if you're using restream.io, the way you do it is you
I'm not putting it in the petition, right? I'm putting it in the live.
No, I want you to put it in the petition. But when we're talking about summer, I'd like you to put it in your captions as well on the lives. Just as I'd like all other content creators talking about it to do the same thing. And it's essentially, the victims themselves. Like, we've asked Don and Candace a couple of times if they're getting support from the Office for Victim Services. And they said that they turned it down. But instead of them going through a whole new process of getting in contact with them again, we can just make sure that we've got these hotline numbers scrolling across the bottom of the screen when we're talking about their case. So at any time, can jump on chat, or they can ring the emergency number and get, the services that they need, because it's fluid. They're going to suffer more stress and more trauma over time. The longer summer's missing, the more traumatic it's going to be for them. And the mental health services that they're going to need for that are involved in these those services are provided by these hotlines.
Yeah, I'm seeing some people saying some stuff in the chat about a moderators only live. If you guys would be interested in doing something like that, what I can do is we can create. Someone would have to direct it. I just unfortunately don't have time to corral everybody. But if someone wants to take that on themselves and create the forum for all of us here to chat about stuff pertaining to stuff here, please, by all means, make that happen and just send me a link. We want everything that's a sprout off of this channel or our conglomerates to be in the most tasteful fashion that we expect a standard. So
Dennis, just to answer your question, victims that can't speak for themselves, that's what these hotlines are for. These are for people who don't actually know what to say or who to say it to or who to get help. They just don't know. That's who these hotlines are for.
They even have hotlines for hearing impaired. So Janice, it's well tailored for everyone that can't speak or is having an issue. We always preface everything, Janice. I know, Janice, this is your first time over here, but we always preface it by saying that we've all mandated ourselves as reporters. If there is someone out there that is neglecting, mistreating, or abusing a child, you know how to go over there and call 911 if you have to. But Janice, we are about the victims here. So we ask that you just kind of
we
pipe
can
down.
also step up if we know someone that can't speak for themselves, or they have, because they're, they might be on the autism spectrum, or they're having social difficulties, or they're just not dealing with the trauma very well. If you know someone like that, ring the Victims Hotline with them present and
Usher them in.
Speak. That's right. Usher them in, speak for them, help them out as much as you can.
Absolutely. Yep. Now, I will tell you, Honest Rage, we've done the Discord thing, and if I'm sure that there's a way to manage it properly, but there was just always an issue of other creators spending the time and effort to send moles over, like we're handling information that's not readily available to everyone. So it did seem to cause some sort of issue when we used it for investigations and advocacy. I would be willing to try it again. We'll see, but I just don't like any of the. There were people that were victimized due to talking freely in our last Discord, and someone came in and screenshotted someone talking freely about a theory on a case, and they were victimized and stigmatized. So they currently now are not involved in the case that they started on. Enough about that, but. I guess
the problem
guys,
that you had with Discord is that you just that you needed someone experienced with Discord to be managing it.
right.
So because you were new to Discord, you didn't actually know how to manage it, and so you did get like a lot of stuff going on in there that shouldn't have been happening. But you needed someone in there. There's a couple of things that we can do. We can set up bots that actually kick people out for specific things, and once you've got someone,
Benny needs bots.
Benny needs bots and mods. Bots. If we're going to do Discord, we need bots and mods who have morals, who understand the morals and the ethics that we're trying to put out here. If we do the Discord again, I will manage it this time, and I will set up all of the technical side of things so that it's helping the mods out.
Let's do it.
And and maybe even a good thing for copy and paste stuff, like our code of ethics, so that people can go there and go to a specific channel to get the information, copy and paste it into their own channels or whatever. So maybe we will go back to the Discord and revisit. Yeah, Benny?
Facts. That sounds good. I want to close with a little piece of my own comedic gesture. This is unfortunately at someone else's expense. I think that it's well warranted though, and well worth it. Tell me if you guys can hear it. Can you hear it? Can you hear it?
Yep.
Okay,
that's
guys.
Funny.
So this is very funny, and I'm gonna let guys. If you're not subscribed to Shannon Bennett, this mofo right here is got to be the funniest person, and actually really a hell of a creator and advocate against. They've chosen obstruction of justice, and they've really taken a very light. Somebody put a link in the. Hold on, guys. I'm putting a link in the chat. Man, come on, right here. You guys go over and mess with Shannon. I know a lot of you in the chat are the ones that sent Shannon over to me. But hold on. Hold on.
Oh no, Benny's got that little devil on his shoulder again. Look out.
Did you hear it? You heard it, didn't you, Aussie?
I did. I did.
All right. Here we go. So check this out, guys. This is a thing, and this is awesome. Check this out.
Boy, do we have a lot to talk about this morning. Here comes the clickbait.
Well, hello there. This is Kermit the Frog.
Pay yourself. sub, by the way. If you are new to the channel, Clickbait Master. Other videos, I've got a bunch of folks. Spit it out, Spitty. What the hell? Let's go check those out. Spit it out. So, come on, Cooper. Get on with it. Let's get on into the lives with Don Buchanan. I'm not really going to preach. Accuse somebody of child abuse. That's what he
That's not funny, but this dude is funny.
You guys are jumping on here and saying, "Oh, what happened to this kid about summer?" This is about summer. I think it's about Don
Wow, we
Buchanan
just hit
live.
1,000
You guys get it. You get it. Now go over and check out. Shannon is actually a hell of an investigative mind. That person, that person is a godsend. They really are funny and moving on. So,
really, we shouldn't be taunting people who have social disabilities.
Absolutely.
YouTube's really bad for that.
Absolutely. We shouldn't troll people with social disabilities. You're right. Random Squirrel, thank you for randomly squirreling around and subbing. What I want to do is I want to take this opportunity.
Before you do,
I want to
let
take
me
this
just say
opportunity to say that there's a fair use clause and that anything I've used from another media outlet is considered entertainment, criticism, or commentary.
Gotcha. And let me just say to everybody who is suggesting WhatsApp, no, we won't be doing WhatsApp because we don't have any control over anything in WhatsApp. If we're going to do it again, it's going to be Discord because we have more control over.
Also, guys,
there.
There's a lot of speech in chatter about the different things that go on WhatsApp, and I just almost feel like I agree that could be a little conflict of interest because we're over there doing something. Meanwhile, they use the WhatsApp to exploit children. We know this, and traffic. So let's find another way. Thank you for your suggestion, though. I do get what you meant. It is a in that person's defense, they're not trying. I'm making too much of it now, but that is just a public forum that anyone can get on. So great idea.
So
but,
I wasn't putting the suggestion down. I'm just explaining why WhatsApp's not a good idea for the purpose that everybody's suggesting here. I mean, you've got quite a community happening here now. So I don't see why we wouldn't do the Discord thing. Everyone else is. But at the same time, we just need to have a little bit more control over what's going on so that what happened last time doesn't repeat itself.
Yeah, no, I agree. With that, we've been on for 2 hours. So for me, this is a marathon. For Aussie, this is just warming up.
Probably. It's only 2 p.m.
Yeah, I've been beat down by the honey-do list today, and I wasn't even all the way 100%. She didn't even beat me down with it. It was just like there was those things. Like I had to finally. My garden shamed me. They're like, listen, we're going to continue to grow these cucumbers, and they're going to be stupid, dumb, long. Like I have 2-foot cucumbers. I finally, the garden shamed me into picking today. I've just been that behind. So thank you, Janet.
Can the mods post a link to Discord for people who haven't got it? It's got an app for your phone, so you don't have to do it on your computer. You can do it on your phone. It's got an app. It's got all of the functionality that we need at the back end to control the mischief. Pardon me. So can one of the mods post? So it's just discord.com. It's not really complex, but that's the link. If you want the app, you go there with your phone and it'll pop up a link to grab the app as well.
Absolutely, guys. If you're new to the channel or you're just happen to be a new viewer, this petition right here it's a real thing. It's got a real framework. You can tell that it's been designed. Like, we've put a lot of time and thought into what that should look like. And again, Aussie has been fundamental in my understanding of what we're actually trying to do with the framework. And that isn't recreate the wheel. What you want to initially do is kind of bundle up a package that raises awareness to laws, statutes, and case law that we already have on the books now. We're not asking for anyone to necessarily recreate the wheel at all. We just want awareness that, that the right thing to do for media conglomerates is to, adhere, make it some sort of ethical strike. Like if you can only have so many ethical strikes before you're just completely removed, because now the way the politics work is that you can maneuver a lot of the issues of putting up children's information that's not yours, their house, their address, that there's just too much of that going on for the wrong reasons. Now, I do want to close. I want to close with this, that I'm very glad, and Aussie and I, she knows that I have a personal issue with even how much information is put out. I don't think, don't anyone twist this. I think Amber Alerts are a beautiful thing. But when you have a socio-dynamic of children that go missing, and then all of a sudden you have a lot of information about this family available, it goes from a missing child case to a witch hunt in the matter of minutes. So that's she knows right. That I'm an opponent of certain, like it has to be, we have to have an algorithm that holds the information that's inputted to a standard. Like, okay, this case, we don't necessarily need to know the family dynamic we don't need to know the whole family tree before we get any more information about this child. We need ASAP information on the child. The problem with giving the trickle down with giving so much information on certain Amber Alerts is that the true crime community, a lot of the big ones that could make a difference, actually turn their investigative detector on, and they start looking at the family instead of looking for the child. All the resources get completely misdirected and redirected, looking at a secondary victim instead of looking for the perpetrator of these abductions, people.
Right. And I think that the Amber Alerts could be better served if they just put the first name of the child out and the area that the child went missing. Because the idea of the Amber Alert is to have everybody on the lookout for that child. So their first name and the area that they live in, or that the child was last seen in, or any, last location sort of thing. They don't need to put out the last name, address, parents' names, all that sort of stuff. I think that the Amber Alerts could probably be correct. That the Amber Alerts could be better served if they're just putting out the name of a child, the picture of their face, and the area that they went missing in, only the first name.
Because and the vehicle, like
what's creative.
Guys, not to talk over you, but in America, kind of like when you see, most generally, I'm not going to say every time, but a lot of times when you see an Amber Alert in the States, it's automatically containing details on either, sometimes as detailed as the direction of travel, but most generally containing a vehicle description and or even a license plate number. So, when you're thinking in terms of
generally, an Amber Alert's generally only put out if there is a vehicle or a person
facts
that has been associated with the missing child. And I think it was accidental. With this case, I think it was accidental because of she did have a red ute that they thought, might have been involved or might have witnessed something. I think that it got a little bit screwed up with this particular case. So, but Amber Alerts are generally only done when there's an expected perpetrator, and that's where you want the detail. That's where you want the name to be put out.
You don't need the child's lineage to put out an Amber Alert. Like, we don't need to know who these people are. We need to know. We don't need to know the suspect's name even, right? Like, it's not like you're going to pull over and have a conversation. You know, you're not going to pull over and have a conversation with the abductor. So you don't need to know his name. And you know what I mean? Like,
I don't even mind if you put the abductor's name. Deserves it. Oh, excuse the French, but he deserves it. But
I mean, I'm just in the event that the abductor ends up being a family member, like that whole sourcing that information out in being able to say, okay, well, what's the rest of the family look like? This is a family abduction. Who are we dealing with? Like, what is this? Like, that's for law enforcement. That's not for us, right? If the kid is in a car, you need to know what color, and you need to know the license plate and the direction of travel, right? The people that know this case specifically, they already know the kid's name and the suspect's name, and they're doing their part already behind the scenes. So there seldom is a lot, I find, that comes in the way of great information when you start throwing out names, right?
Right. So all you need is a picture of the child's face, and when you see someone who looks like that, you call out someone. And if they look at you, you immediately ring police. That's all you need. That's.
I want to close on this too. My wife doesn't know this. So anytime there's an Amber Alert here in the Texas area, Oklahoma, Louisiana, kind of that tri-state area, you know, a lot of times here we'll get suspect information. And a lot of times you'll look up that suspect in social media and you can find him. And most generally, they're not someone that has, you know, a billion friends and just tons of interactions. It's just kind of, you know, they're the type of people they are. Now, I say all that to say that every time I could show you the receipts, every time that there's an Amber Alert and there's a suspect, and that suspect has a Facebook, I always message the suspect and say, listen, don't hurt the kid. Whatever you're doing, like whatever you've done, don't hurt that kid, right? That's the most important. Like, there's still hope that you can make it away from this, and not like this doesn't have to cost you the rest of your life, right? And let me tell you, I have never had not one Amber Alert suspect answer me back, or even, well, let me take it back. They've never answered. There was an individual here in Ennis, Texas, about 90 days ago. It happened right, a month before summer. And it was a young mom who had a child with someone. They had custody issues. She had some substance abuse issues. We know all this because of the Amber Alert. So they give this woman's social media, and they give a suspect social media, rather a female and a male, give both their social media. So I reached out to a suspect, and I still, to this day, I don't know. I've never searched it. I don't know what the conclusion was in the case as far as the gentleman that I reached out to, but I can tell you this, that he did look at my message. And I will say that the child was recovered unharmed. Now, I don't even know if he's still on the run, if they've captured him, if my message came after, that they gave the baby back. I don't like they dropped the baby off in essentially they were going to drop the baby off, and she got out of the vehicle, and he burnt off and left her there with the baby. So they got her and the baby at the same time. He, however, was able to elude the law enforcement on the way towards Louisiana, allegedly. So, I always have kept that in my pocket because I feel like, I don't even want to go find out if I was, if I did it all in line and pat, there is no pat on the back. It's just that's the sort of thing, that's the links I go to in order to reach out to every aspect in these cases. And that's just an example of some of the things that I do. Take it or leave it. Can I
just reply to Autumn Rose? Yes, we do have Amber Alerts in Australia. Amber Alerts come from the International Organization for Missing and Exploited Children. It's international, it's European and the West, both European Union and the United Nations, have all teamed up, and it's a global organization that looks after exploited and missing children, and the Amber Alerts come out of that organization. So they are in New Zealand, they're in Australia, Amber Alerts everywhere. It's just that we have different methods of distributing it in Australia to the way America does it. That's the only difference.
But it's the
really.
same alert.
So
yeah, I mean, it's you know, I assume an alert kind of is an alert. So it's, you know, if anywhere there could be a tornado, anywhere there could be an abduction. Amber Alert kind of umbrellas all minor abductions or disappearances.
In your country, you will get if you live in that area, you get the Amber Alert sent to your phone, whereas in Australia, we get it on social media. So if we're following, you follow your local police branch, and it goes onto their police. It goes onto their Facebook page, and then that gets circulated that way. There's other ways. Sometimes we do have news items. It comes out on the TV as well sometimes. So depending on the case.
Now, I see, Natasha, that is very critical think tank type thinking that you've had there. But to think about the petition, it's kind of a conflict of interest doing that maybe. It certainly would limit the jump from just being an Amber Alert over to. I like the way you think. First of all, let me say that. Now, how it would be a conflict of interest is that if you were held to an ethical code of standard, and you just decided you didn't want to ethically, bear to the standard, then you have all sorts of other options that you can go do content and raise awareness, or just, document things or report things. But what my challenge is to anybody is to not monetize or accept donations from the backs in the exploitation of children that's not going back into that economy, right? That economy, I said I'll send all of my super chats over after YouTube takes 60% or whatever. I'll send it to the reward or a fund for them. Not a lot of content creators are even doing that, and they make tons of money every month. So you just got to be able to.
It's the monetization. If you remove the monetization, then a lot less people are going to go down that path that they're doing right now. So they're only doing it for the money.
Gone when you remove the money, right? So what you leave behind, Natasha, is you leave behind the people that actually want to cover child cases, but do it correctly. And what they would be willing to do is do it for free, not be paid to do it, right? So when you do that, you're automatically setting up a screen that's going to filter out all or a majority of the bad content creators that don't want to stick to a code of ethics only regarding children. If you feel like you want to go tear up Barry Morphew in that case, and you feel comfortable messing with due process and justice, by all means, go do it. I don't have the time or the heart to stop every conspiratorialist that thinks that Barry Morphew has a thin case or a good case. That's not my issue. My issue is with the children's cases and keeping these things. There's a reason why legislation has kept them, and Congress and senators and government in America keeps these things in a vacuum, is because there is a different standard of justice that we seek for children. It's it's synonymous justice as like when an officer gets killed in the line of duty. They want the utmost type of justice for that officer. They want the same thing for children too. Now, that's not to say that generically they don't want that for every victim, but we can say with absolute certainty that there are genres of victims that are held in a higher respect. Amen. Hooah.
Yeah, but on the same token, I think this other article that I was reading from a little earlier, it's pointing out that we tend to sensationalize the stories that are going to tug on the heartstrings the hardest, and that's why children, because they know that they're going to get the followers follow it because it's about a kid. Everyone feels badly for kids, so it's
Right, and you
sensationalizing crimes
Sorry.
against children.
Yeah, and you can qualify. There's two types of creators. You have generally, you have the creator that's doing it for the clout, and then you have the creator that's doing it for the money. Both of them are equally as dangerous. And so, if you can remove any of the mitigating factors that would motivate someone to jump off into an unethical plane of investigation, then you want to remove those motivating factors, right? You remove the fact that you can't monetize or accept. I mean, it's just it's good for everyone.
I have to agree with what Natasha's putting forward there. When you were talking about you contacted an offender yourself, this is something that we need to discuss with our code of ethics. Like, one of the codes of ethics with the trace labs is that you don't contact anybody involved in the crime whatsoever.
Right.
You
no
don't
live
contact anybody.
Yeah.
Not with anyone, not the family, not the victim, not the victim's family, and not betrayers. You don't contact anybody. You go looking for their footprints online and you report that back to Trace Labs. They put it into a report for the police, and the police get notified of it that way. So, that's something that we need to go into some detail in our own code of ethics and what we think that should be to discuss these things, which is why I think it's good that we have a Discord where we can just go and discuss how, everyone's ideas and try to put together a code of ethics together. But that's just something that Trace Labs, that's their code of ethics. We don't have to adopt that one or whatever. But just something along those lines. But I think contacting the victims of crime, the families and whatever, I think that should be actually on the top of the list, that you don't contact anyone. Maybe not so much the perpetrators, because, the perpetrators sometimes they probably deserve a kick in the butt. They deserve to be, but if you've got the wrong perpetrator, that's another.
I pled with the one guy. His name. Well, I'm not going to tell his name, but I pled with the guy because as I look at all of the offenders that have social media, and I look at these guys, and it's like, you to be human, you look at these guys and say, listen, I'm only one bad mistake from being this guy too. So on a human level, I'm like, I want to plead with them, like, please, whatever problems you got with any adults, like, please don't harm the child. I don't get on there and say, oh, you're a dirty bastard.
I understood where you were coming from, but it was just in reply to what Natasha was calling a conflict of interest.
Right. No, and I get it. There is
such
such a very fine line. Well, anyways, guys, my computer is now telling me that I am officially overheating. So before I burn up the new Mac, let's go ahead and log this off. Aussie, do you have anything to say in closing?
No, that's it. I think we've said this all we got to say. We're all said it out.
That's it, Lizzie. Thank you for allowing us to make this amendment to your petition, and everyone else for taking us seriously about doing it. Please.
Yeah, sorry you're not feeling well, Lizzie.
Yes, Lizzie. We hope you feel better. Guys, if you've signed the petition, I appreciate it. If you haven't signed it, go sign it and share it. If you've already shared it, reshare it again. We're going to start putting another campaign on the push now that we have the framework really built in, and we'll start putting in the context for the decision makers here ASAP. So, guys, thank you for joining in. Thank you to the new member and the super chat. Thank you, Melly Mel,
Thanks
for your Cash App gang love. And remember, guys, the absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence.